On the screen, you'll see an example of the tool. In the blue box is the title of the practice test this tool is associated with. Just below that are the RCPI for this particular content. In this example, we're looking at math, so you'll see the 5 RCPI for math listed here. Below that, you have 4 columns: the question number, the SPI associated with that question, the correct answer for that question, and the RCPI that's associated with that question. There are 45 questions on this particular test, and you have this information for all 45 questions on the test. So let's talk about how to get the data into the tool so you can best use this to drive instruction. So I've already downloaded the CSV file from the scanning site. You'll notice in row 5 it gives you the number of students that got each question correct. In this example, I tested 20 students. So in question 1, 20 students out of 20 got that question correct. The same for question 2. I see in question 3 that only 18 of my students got that question correct, and in question 4 only 5. So we want to use this data to help the item analysis tool to give us the best information. So I'm going to start where question 1 is, row 5. I'm going to select that data all the way down to the last question. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to then return to my item analysis tool, and I'm going to paste that into these yellow squares. Now there is one trick to doing this. When I paste it, I'm going to use what's called the transpose function. If you'll notice, the data that we want is actually laid out horizontally in the CSV file. We need that data to be laid out vertically to work in the RCPI an item analysis tool. So when I choose to paste it, I will choose the transpose button, and in some earlier versions it will bring up a dialog box and you actually check transpose. And so you will see now that the data that was horizontal on the other file is now vertical in this file. The other piece of input that this tool needs is the number of students tested. So you remember we tested 20 students. So I need to type the number 20 into this box, and once I do that, now the tool will calculate the percentage of students that got each of the questions correct. Additionally, you'll now see that it has calculated the average of the students in the class that got all questions correct in this category. So as I look at the RCPI, I can see that my students, on average, did not get as many of those questions correct. Now, one way to help me determine exactly where to start with my instruction, I can drop down here to the RCPI column and choose to filter it based on only geometry and measurement questions. Now you will see only the questions visible are those that are associated with the geometry and measurement RCPI. I notice on question 34 none of my students got that correct. So I'm going to return to the practice test to see what that question was and then develop some other examples around that particular skill to help my students with SPI 4.5. I also notice at question 5 only 4 of my students got those correct, but all 20 of my students got questions 8, 16, 23, and 25 and 28 correct. You will notice that when you filter these down to the RCPI, the other averages disappear. This data has not been deleted, it's been merely filtered out, so you only have the RCPI you want to focus on the screen. Once I go back, if I select all RCPI, you'll notice those percentages return. Another feature built into this tool that might assist teachers in making instructional decisions is filtering this information by the number of students that got a particular question correct. If I return to the column that contains the number of students that got the questions correct, I can filter this for 0. Now on the screen, I see all of the questions from the test that none of my students got correct. This will allow me to return to the test, do a little investigating about the skills necessary for students to be successful on these questions, and develop my instruction from there.